Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hockeytown Rundown. You're here with
What's
us,
up?
your beautiful hosts, once again, Carlo and Zach. Carlo, happy
Yo,
weekend, buddy. Happy
happy
Sunday.
weekend.
What's going on?
Love it, love it. Not much, man. Not a whole lot. We're enjoying the weekend as per usual, and we're excited to get into some more what if scenarios here because the last one was quite good. I think it was brought up some good banter, so I'm really excited to kind of keep this thing flowing and going. And yeah, man. How about you? What's your weekend looking like?
Going back and reading some of these comments, you guys were very chit-chatty last episode, and because of that, we are very humbled and excited to present this episode to kind of go over some of the ideas, thoughts, and opinions that you guys provided to us on the last episode moving forward and seeing what if Steve Yzerman does make a big splash, considering the fact that, Carlo, not only with the Stanley Cup finals going on, and it's been an exciting first two games. I mean, probably the best two games of a final. I think I said this last year too. Was it the best Stanley Cup final that we ever got to witness in a really long time? And I think this one so far might be better than last year's, even though it did go to Game 7. I firmly believe it's going to Game 7, but my weekend's just been focused on hockey, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you, man, and you're right, dude. This is a crazy. Like Connor McDavid is at an all-time level 11, and the Florida Panthers are rolling four lines like the Florida Panthers do. And it's just so consistent game in, game out. Dude, that play by Connor was nuts.
Which one? All of them?
Like that, yeah, but the one assist, like when he beat out Barkov and Ekblad to set up Draisaitl, I was like, who is this guy? Like, I know who he is, but like, dude, there's not many people that can like impress me that many times. It's like he's constantly doing something new that's just like, listen, I'm going to go on record and say this. Like, the way that guy can skate, I can't even do that with flip-flops on in my backyard, okay? So it's not fair. It's not fair.
It was, and, you know, the overtime goal, I believe it was, in game one, where they set it up and everything. It was Connor McDavid doing his thing over to Leon. Leon shoots, scores, glove side, right? They almost did it again.
I know.
The second game, I mean, the only reason why they didn't score is because Leon Draisaitl just didn't get the puck up enough. But, man, that is just unbelievably crazy on how, like you said, 11th gear, 12th gear even for Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl is having one hell of a tournament. Corey Perry as well.
Yeah.
I mean, giving credit over to the Florida Panthers too. Sam Bennett looks phenomenal game in, game out. Brad Marchand getting that double OT game-winning goal as well in the second game. So it's shaping up to be, I firmly believe it's going to Game 7 once again, Carlo. I think you would probably agree with me on that. Maybe not, but that's where my head's at.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to go past 5. I think it kind of has to at this point, but 6, 7 for sure. Yeah, man. I mean, this is just
Oily boys in 7. Oily
I'll
boys
take
in
it.
7.
I'm down. I'm totally down. I would love the cup to come back to Canada, which would be nice. But more importantly for Connor, man, like if there's somebody that deserves the Stanley Cup, it's him. Just watching him play, the things he comes up with every single shift, like that boy needs a cup. So hopefully his comrades can pull through like they have been and make it happen. Stuart Skinner's got to dial it in a little bit more, though. He's got to dial it in a little bit more, and I think the Edmonton Oilers can potentially do it.
I would agree. The 5-hole goal kind of hurt my soul, but the Oilers are giving away too many opportunities from the breakaways, so I would agree with you there, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, in this episode, we will be covering players in general that Steve Yzerman could be going after, like the Jason Robertsons, right? So we'll be going deep into that. And before we do, Carlo, we have to stop and say thanks for joining us on this brand new episode once again. If you are returning, if you are brand new, thanks for stopping by. We truly do appreciate it. Helps us along. If you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and then hitting that little notification bell, and then also sharing this video as well to your friends, your family members, really to anyone. Helps us grow, get the engagement out there, and then also providing more amazing and great content that we love bringing to you guys. We believe it's great content. You guys are very engaged with us down in the comments, especially on YouTube. You guys are doing a great job over on social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Carlo's doing all great stuff over on TikTok. If you guys aren't following us on there, go ahead and follow us on there. And then also make sure that you are following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you can also watch and listen to us on those platforms as well. And then also find our merch, all in our link tree as well. I always forget to mention that as well, Carlo. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, buddy. And so I don't even know where to begin. I guess we should just start it from the top like we did last episode, right? I think it probably starts with who you have currently in your system right now, right? So you have players like Jonathan Berggren, Albert Johansson, Elmer Soderblom. Do we want to touch on Jonathan Berggren yet? Yes or no?
I would say not yet. I think we got to kind of sign the guys that are expected to come back, which is going to be Eljo and Elmer Soderblom.
And just to make it easy and fair, if anyone does believe that these two players can make more than a 1 year, $925K contract this upcoming season, let us know down in the comments why. Add some context to it instead of just saying they're going to make more than that. Please provide the context to it. We definitely appreciate that. That makes the engagement a lot more fun for us to reply to you guys. So you guys did a great job last episode, like we mentioned. So yeah, I think you're right, Carlo. I think just that's a good start because it does seem like both you and I and other Red Wings fans don't see really, I hate to say it like this, a need for Jonathan Berggren. Also doesn't really have the greatest fit on there other than primarily the fourth line at this point for the Detroit Red Wings. So I think it's probably best that we keep him there for now, like you mentioned.
You know what I could see though, Zach? I could see Bergs, if he's going to get traded, I could see a sign and trade potentially. I don't know if we did that or talked about that last week, but I think that's an idea.
Yeah, we did talk about that last week. The only reason why I think we didn't do that last time is because if another team wants a Jonathan Berggren, I think that they would just be more inclined to give him the deal themselves, unless we believe. It just kind of depends. Are we signing Jonathan Berggren before the thought and idea of a trade, or are we just giving him the extension for the sake of the other team that's going to take him?
Yeah, at that point, you're right. You just let the other team deal with it.
Because he's still an RFA, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like he's going to leave them. So that's where I'm at with that one. And I guess from here, just kind of setting up the roster as well. This will all be fast forwarded. All right, so full roster breakdown. Currently, the Red Wings will have 19 players on the roster. That's including players like Carter Mazur, Austin Watson, even players like Justin Hall. We did just move them down, just kind of slotting these players where we believe that they should be indexed, as Carlo always famously likes to say.
Dude.
We need to index these players based on where they are able to play at and not over-index them, hoping that they can contribute more than what they actually offer. Carlo, I don't know if you want to speak on your indexing portion phrase that you always like to say.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. We've seen for the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of over-indexing with some of the players that we all can agree are maybe a little bit overpaid and maybe definitely not productive. So, yeah, I mean, regardless of the money they make, they need to play the role that they can play to be indexed properly. And I think the way this is lined up right now, yeah, that's exactly what the other side of it is. Look at the holes there that we have. And these are the holes that I've been talking about all season long. We have a hole on the top line. We have a hole on the second line. Now, I think the second line one's probably going to be filled by Patrick Kane. I do see him coming back, just like we mentioned last week.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a glaring hole on that top line, and there's still some big-time bottom six depth that we need to. This is kind of what we want to try to solve today with a different round of players, especially over the course of the last week, right? With a bunch of different ideas being floated around and whatnot, and a bunch of teams surprisingly putting some players on the block. I don't know how much validity there is behind it, but we'll entertain it. It's June, so let's have some fun.
You know, the one thing that actually surprised me the most based on the comments, Carlo, is that we had a lot of people going in there saying there's no point in us overpaying these middle-aged players that are going to be over-indexed even more, kind of what we already have in the Andrew Kopps, the Vladimir Tarasenkos, and even the JT Compers, right? And so kind of goes back to, I'm not trying to put myself out there on a pedestal here, but I made mention a while ago, I did not believe Steve Yzerman would be doing anything prominent this offseason to make this team better. I thought maybe he would promote from within, and a lot of people scolded me for that. Now you go and look at the comments on last episode. There's a lot of people saying you shouldn't have to overpay this guy because he's a middle-aged guy, blah, blah, blah. You know, Mitch Marner doesn't seem like he's willing to come here. Oh, you're really going to overpay for Sam Bennett, who literally is, you see it in the comments, Andrew Kopp or JT Comfort. That's who they're saying he is. Listen, with a little more sandpaper, and I get that. I can't portion,
get behind anyone comparing Sam Bennett to Andrew Kopp or to JT Comfort. There is no comparison there.
But it's just how funny how a lot of people going into this offseason, they're like, yes, we have to go after Marner. We have to go after X and XYZ player. We have to get better, right? And so now we start hearing how Sam Bennett could garner $10 million. Mitch Marner could get closer to $14 million. Brad Marchand could be getting anywhere from $8 to $9 million, right? And so nuts. Now that's scaring a lot of people away and kind of going and kind of agreeing to what I said formerly, where maybe it's time where Steve has to venture into trades or promote within, right? And so that's one of the main reasons why we're going into this episode, is to show you guys what it's going to cost in getting players like the Jason Robertsons, the Marco Rossi's, or JJ Paterkas and Bowen Byrams, or whoever else really that we see fit for this team moving forward. And kind of moving up here too, you see the draft capital. The Red Wings, they have two extra picks actually for this upcoming draft, right? So you still got your first, you still got your second, you got 2/3, and you have a fourth, right? After that, it's all kind of just the GM's going to be picky, like, yeah, just throw in a seventh. Why not? Maybe we'll do something with it eventually, right? So let's go ahead and just jump into it, Carlo. And the first player that I think we should touch on, honestly, is the Dallas Stars, because they have little to no cap going into next season, and they have a lot of forward spots that they need to fill up. And so I want you to go ahead and jump into, there was a really decent one that we saw from a local sports radio station called Woodward Sports Network. They're also on YouTube and everything. And our good friend Justin actually submitted it over to you. So I'll let you go in depth a little bit about that one, Carlo. Let us know what that one entailed.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Woodward Sports Network for sure. And the mock trade that was presented online was Detroit receiving Jason Robertson and Matt Dumba, which I thought was interesting.
Two holes that you fit right there, technically, totally. Right? So you got your top left winger, and then you got Matt Dumba, who can come in and slot in as the, I don't really like it, but he would be your second right-handed defenseman for the second pair.
Yeah, let's see how it works. Now, there's 1 year left on the deal for both of those guys. Now, let's see how this works. So, okay, so here, Detroit receives Robertson and Dumba. Detroit trades away Vladimir Tarasenko at 50% retained. They trade away Nate Danielson.
Bye, Nate Dogg.
See you later, Nate Dogg. And then they trade away 2 first-round picks, one in 2025, one in 2027, and a 2026 third-round pick, which would be, I believe... Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the deal. I think it's a little rich. I think Detroit might be giving up a little too much. What do you think? Considering the contract, like the retaining on Tarasenko, I don't know. It's
so with this in total, yes, you move on from let's just call it 2.4 mil, right? From Tarasenko, but you're actually, you have to take that on still. So you take on 2.4 for 1 year, right? And then you're taking from Jason Robertson and Matt Dumba, that's $11.6 million total, if the math is mathing correctly in my head, or is that still 11.5 million? Okay. So you're taking that.
We're fine.
We have the cap space, honestly. So by doing that, and then you're moving on $2.4 million to, the Dallas Stars, you're doing them a huge favor in that regard, so that way they can go out and get more players. Now, my big question is that, right as I mentioned, a lot of good players going into UFA are going to want to get played. Even the middle guys, I can't imagine that they're not going to want to get paid more than what they average throughout their whole entire NHL careers or in general, right? That's just the reality of it. Something that we're just not used to. Cap going up means even the middle guys and the bad guys make more money.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
just how it's
As
going
much
to
as
work,
everybody hates
right?
that.
And
But
so
I
for
just wanted
me,
to I
hold
ju-
on. For me, hold on.
wait,
I'm almost
wait,
done.
wait, wait,
Hold on.
wait, wait, edit it out. Just
I'm
edit it
almost
out.
done. I'm almost done. With this, I like it, but I don't think that this would be something that Dallas would do unless they want to take all those picks that we give them and use them to trade for ready now players. So I would go about this differently. I don't mind this, but I think this would be about where it would be. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, a little bit of tinkering here and there. Now I'll leave it over to you.
You nailed it. You I should have just let you finish because you pretty much said what I thought you were going to say, or at least how I wanted to frame it. But the reason why I think this deal came about online was because the rumor is, and again, we don't know the validity of this. We're just going based off of the things we're seeing online in June. So just stay with us here. But the rumor is that Dallas is looking for draft capital and they're looking for cap space. This checks those boxes in spades, if that rumor is true. So I think that's why this deal came about. I think this is why Woodward Sports dropped that out. Shout out Justin. I don't think it's a bad deal at all. I think it addresses the rumor directly on what Dallas wants, and it gives Detroit, I think, a pretty interesting return. It's just a matter of seeing how it works in the lineup, really, to kind of go from there. But now you were saying something about you don't know if it's enough, and I know some people are going to be like, "Oh, Dallas is never going to take this. Dallas is going to want some ready now players," which may be true too. But again, just going back to that rumor, they're looking for draft capital and they're looking for cap space. But if they were to want a ready now player, I don't think Detroit's even in the conversation because we don't really have a ready now player to give back to them that we want to spare. What are your thoughts?
I went back and I looked at the Mikko Rantanen trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best way that you can view any other trade that involves a Jason Robertson, right? Granted, they're not the same size, but you look at their points ever since 21-22 season. I believe that Mikko Rantanen has 15 more goals than Jason Robertson has. And Jason Robertson has, I think he has more overall points. Maybe it's a little less. Maybe I looked at it wrong, but I did this last night. So correct me if I'm wrong, Carlo. You can look into it as I'm speaking on this. But so Jason Robertson, what it costed to get a Mikko Rantanen, it's probably going to cost the same amount for Jason Robertson, maybe a little bit more because he's so much younger, right? And that's by a few years, not by just a couple, but by a few years on top of that, right? I believe it's like 3 or 4 more years that he's younger than a Mikko Rantanen. I also look at the Dallas Stars lineup, right? I mean, they have Jamie Benn. I don't know if they even want him playing center anymore, if he even played center. They have Wyatt Johnson. Mikko Rantanen can play center. I believe they probably don't want him to play center. So I think you would, and in my perfect trade scenario, this is kind of what I would do. And this is to help both sides, right? So to weaponize the cap as best as possible. What I would do is, let's see, where are you? Mason Marchment. I'm going to also throw in JT Compher. I think JT Compher's contract is way more stomachable if you can retain half for the rest of the 3 years. Same thing with Vladimir Tarasenko. And you get Mason Marchment. So then you're taking on, what is that? That's $12.25 million. You're giving up Vladimir Tarasenko, Nate Danielson, JT Compher. I wouldn't give them the 20. I would probably I would change it up and I would do 26.
Yep.
And this is exactly matching with what they did to acquire Mikko Rantanen. They gave up a 26 first. They gave up a 28 first. So you're literally just giving them back what they lost. And the only reason why I'm giving them the 26 first is because that's such a more deeper draft. Obviously, these are all going to be conditional. If, the Red Wings tanked for whatever reason because of injuries, whatever, then it's top 10 protected or top 12 protected. So the Red Wings would get those picks back. But I think something like this here could probably get it done. But I don't know. Here, this is the other thing. Give them Jonathan Berggren too. So you're getting a Vladimir Tarasenko at 2.4. You're getting a JT Comfort at $2.6 million. So that's $5 million right there. Jonathan Berggren, you can sign him for probably $1 million compared to the 12.25, if the math is mathing correctly, going over to the Red Wings. I think something like this could work, and that gives them bodies, and they still will have cap to work with in unrestricted free agency, and then use those first round picks that we gave to them to go out and trade for ready now players that might be on cheaper contracts that they could sign for. Yep. I don't know which one would be better. This would be more the route that I would like to go. Considering that we already have Justin Hall and we have Eric Gustafsson, I know that they really suck, but how much of an upgrade is Matt Dumba going to be for us on this team? Now, I would prefer to get a Mason Marchment if I can, and it's more cap. So that's why I feel like it would be easier for Dallas to move on from a Mason Marchment. But I do believe Mason Marchment plays a more prominent role for a Dallas team. Your overall thoughts on this, Carlo?
I love what you did in giving Dallas back what they lost in the Rantanen deal. That's, I think, something that could be very attractive to them to make something like this go through. You know what, dude? I would, if we could go and do something like this, maybe the volume of moves is low because there's a big splash like this that's made, and then Steve goes and addresses another defensive hole in free agency along with Patrick Kane. So I'm almost curious. I really like this deal and the makeup of it. I'm really curious, if you were to hit that magical accept button, what does it look like? And what is it left? What's left for us to play with in terms of going after another top 4D? Maybe we see if Gavrikov's, does that deal work? Because I know that's a fan favorite. And then Patrick Kane.
For giggles then? For science?
For shiggles and gits. For shiggles and gits, man.
Okay, so the trade was Jason Robertson, Mason Marchment. Neither come with extensions, right? So that's on Steve Yzerman. I think that's also prominent why that this deal would work, is because then you don't have that in place, and that's on Steve Yzerman to then work out. So you have more risk involved, right? And so for Dallas, they're like, okay, that works out for us because there's no guarantee in that, even though that it would eventually happen, that more than likely both Jason Robertson and Mason Marchment, in my perfect world, doing this scenario, they would get those extensions, right? And we'll wait to do those. So you're moving on from Vladimir Tarasenko. You're retaining $2.4 million. You sent over Nate Danielson as well. You sent over JT Comfort, retaining $2.6 million. You send over the rights of Jonathan Berggren, 2026 first round pick, and a 2028 first round pick. You're giving them the picks that they moved on from Mikko Rantanen. And from there now, the Red Wings, you lost out on a first in 2026. Which at this point, you hope that Jason Robertson, Mason Marchment, whoever else you bring in, puts you in that position to then make the playoffs, so that pick is anywhere from 16 to 32, right? And same thing with pick 2028. It's going to be so much further down the line that you're going to be picking anywhere from 16 to 32, hopefully bearing any huge injury seasons.
Yeah, I was going to say by 2028, I'm hoping that this team is cracking open the window, because if it's not this offseason that they get a lot better, I think it's definitely going to be next that they get a whole lot better when you look at that crop. And I always come back to that. So by 2028, I'm expecting this team to be pretty powerful. I mean, you got Lucas Raymond with 2 more years, Moritz Seider with 2 more years, Simon Evans and Marco Kasper. 2028, I'm hoping for a really fun team to watch. But let's play with this. And let's see what we can come up with. I think Marchment's got to go. Yeah, I think he slots in for sure right there.
I actually would prefer Mason Marchment to be in the top 6. Hear me out on this. Pushing Alex DeBrincat over to the right, and then
Marchment's huge. Marchment. He's a unit.
So there you go. So yeah, I think that would be more than fine for your second line, pushing Alex DeBrincat over to his actual wing side, right, instead of his off wing, we haven't really seen that too often. And so I think now would be the perfect time to do it. Or maybe Mason Marchment does like playing on his off wing as much as Alex DeBrincat does. And then going in, like you said, just kind of moving forward ahead, Patrick Kane. Yeah, just worst unkept secret that he's going to rejoin the Red Wings, right? How much we really don't know, so we always just revert back to the $4 million.
Yeah.
And with that, you still have over $8 million left at your disposal with that right there. And so that's your top 9.
Okay, so hear me out real quick, devil's advocate here. If you're signing Patrick Kane and you're saying, hey, buddy, we're putting you with Andrew Kopp and Michael Rasmussen, he's probably going to go to Toronto. Like, I think Kane comes back with the notion that he's playing top 6. That's a question in and of itself. Do we want Patrick Kane back in the top 6?
I don't think Patrick Kane would actually be coming and saying, I absolutely want to play top 6. I think I think he kind of understands with his age, the way that this team needs to go. Can he provide us top 6 talent? Absolutely. I do believe that. And I think it's going to be interchangeable. So like these two guys, they're not going to be locks. You know what I'm saying? I think that these can be interchangeable. I also think this can be interchangeable. I think Casper can always go over to the wing, right? Mason Marchment can always go up and play the 2C. Worst case scenario, like I said, you can always go this route as well, where Mason Marchment and Patrick Kane swap. I think it comes down to who you're going up against, the matchups, and everything else that comes in between that, right? So I wouldn't primarily focus on where we're actually going to be sliding these guys in a perfect reality, but for Patrick Kane, I don't see him going to Toronto or really anywhere else. I really don't. And if it comes down to how much playing time I'm getting, you're going to be on the first power play unit regardless, which is top 5 to 10 in the league as it's been for quite some time, right? And so thanks to Alex Tanguay. I really don't think that he's going to give us any flack. But to your point, playing on the third line with Andrew Kopp and Michael Rasmussen, then I don't think Michael Rasmussen makes it up there. Maybe it's Soderblom. I really don't think that either. But then that comes down to we still have 2 holes that we have to fill, right? And so what does that look like for a third line left winger and then a 4C as well? Is that Carter Mazur up there on the third line winger? Probably not. We're just going to have to wait and find out. But that's where my head is with that, Carlo. But go more in depth on what I just mentioned and what you said earlier as well.
Well, it's just for me, like, if you got to remember, Patrick Kane's a UFA, so he's going to get offers. He's going to get offers. We can all hope and pray that he's a lock to re-sign in Detroit. And I think the chances are very good. But he's got offers on the table. So, if he asks the question, what's my role? What are you guys envisioning? And we're putting him next to a guy like Andrew Kopp on the third line. Yes, he's still getting his PP1 opportunity. But then you look at some of the other teams that are rumored to be interested in Patrick Kane services as well. And I know the Toronto Maple Leafs are one of them. I think they're fully prepared for Marner to walk away. They're going to have some money. If they sign Patrick Kane and say, hey, Patty Kane, we're going to put you on PP1 over here too, and we're going to put you in our top 6, guaranteed. I mean, Toronto's top 6 is nothing to balk at. If I'm Patrick Kane, I'm making a pretty difficult decision. I think the second line right wing is Patrick Kane's, and Patrick Kane's to lose. So I think you kind of got to give him that spot. If you want, and then I think Marchman's got to go. Now, hear me out. This is depth. This is depth. I've talked about it a few times too, where you mentioned it's interchangeable. Nothing's really a lock. That's a luxury. We have not had that luxury. We started to see it last season with Marco Kasper, where he was centering the second line, but he was also left wing on the top line. He's a guy that can jump up the lineup. Mason Marchment, potentially a guy that can jump up in the lineup if we need to, injuries, whatever the case is. These are all luxuries that the Detroit Red Wings have not had for quite some time. So, in a perfect world where we have a fully healthy roster, I think this top 6 is very, very close. This top 6 is a lock. This top 9 here is very, very close. And you kind of roll into the season from there, and whatever happens, happens. You make adjustments like you always do if something pops up. But this is where I think we are the deepest, and this is where I think we could be a potential threat.
Now, hear me out and let me cook. Tell me that's not the biggest third line in the NHL.
That's insane, dude. Holy cow. That would be That would be a very, very exciting third line.
Yeah, Elmer Soderblom, 6'8", Mason Marchment, 6'5", Michael Rasmussen, 6'6". It's the threesome line once again,
Dude,
just with
I think
one different player.
that's pretty impressive.
And so I don't know about Andrew Kopp being pushed down to the first seed by any means, but like I said, I think that top six, it goes back to what we said last episode, Carlo. There's really not that much size there. And it goes back to the second line where Patrick Kane, not exactly the fastest guy. I feel like I'm having one of the deja vu, right? I'm having deja vu. Patrick Kane, not the fastest guy. Marco Kasper, very gritty, can get under the skin. Alex DeBrincat does the same thing, can score. Marco Kasper, a little bit on the speedier side. Alex DeBrincat, same thing. But there's not really a lot of size here. So is this the line that we're just hoping for? High octane, high fast, high pace, scoring ability, as well as the top line. So that's your top six. Is that your identity? Speed, tenacity, and then your second line has a little bit of grit. Is that how you would claim this top six?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. When you listen, like to be tough to play against, we really don't know exactly what we think Steve Yzerman means. He wants physicality, he wants some big boys, he wants some bruisers. But you have to remember the flip side of being tough to play against could be that you're faster and you're more skilled too. You know, if you're playing against guys that are quick and skilled, that's tough to play against as well. So I don't really know which way Yzerman's thinking in terms of, do I want to go after the speed and skill type of being tougher to play against, or do I want to go after just straight up bruising and having some big boys? I mean, this is kind of this lineup so far, really, Zach. It's a little bit of both here. You got your speed and skill, but you got some size as well. And keep in mind the back end, the defense. There's still a hole there. You get another guy with some size there too. Now you have a pretty solid top line, and then you're going to have a pretty sizable second line for D as well. So far, I'm really liking the way this lineup shakes out. And man, if Jim Nill and Steve Yzerman could connect on something like this, that could really be a game changer for both teams. For both teams, Zach, like for Detroit and for Dallas, getting those two picks back too. That's huge.
And I do think that there is going to be at some point a lot of talks that Dallas Stars, Jim Nill, and Detroit Red Wings, Steve Yzerman talks are going to be coming out, right? Because they're very familiar with each other. Like you said, I think it fits both holes that both teams are looking for in this type of trade scenario, right? The Red Wings want players that are young, that are ready now, that can put up points, and that also have size and that bring a little bit of tenacity with them and a little bit of playoff experience and a little bit of grittiness, so to say, right? And I do believe that Jason Robertson and Mason Marchment can bring a little bit of that, not obviously like a Brad Marchand or Sam Bennett type, but yeah, we can kind of find that elsewhere based on the fourth line. We've talked about that. Elmer Soderblom, Michael Rasmussen, both being over 6'5" as well, can bring that type of physicality to this team. But also on the back end, which is where I think we should focus next, Carlo, instead of finishing out the forward end, we should focus now on that RD2 spot, that right-handed defenseman 2 spot. Or maybe it's a left-handed defenseman. I see a lot of people always saying Gavrikov still. I know you're a big fan of Gavrikov. I am too, but I just don't know based on hearing these forwards on what they could get paid. I think it's going to be similar to the defenseman, but let's talk about trade targets. And to me, one player that comes to mind obviously would be Bowen Byram. I think we touched on that last episode, but a forgotten player that a lot of fans were talking about before this past season was Rasmus Andersson. How would you feel about going after Rasmus Andersson, who comes in at a very fine cap hit, who really didn't have the greatest season this year? And Calgary seems to be kind of going back and forth on what they think about him. So who would you target in a trade for that RD2 spot? I just threw out Rasmus Andersson just for the shoot and giggles of it, like you said earlier. So your thoughts and opinions on RD2.
I really like Rasmus Andersson. That would be a really, really good get. I don't know if it's the Calgary Flames or if it's him. I mean, for what it's worth, his plus minus is pretty terrible. I think he had like one decent season with plus minus, but other than that, it's not great. But shoots right. He's the right age.
Former 50-point guy.
Yeah, like I'm not sure what's left on his deal, and I'm not sure. Oh, it's only a year. Okay. Does Calgary want to get rid of a guy like that?
That's the ultimate question, right? Are they prepared to move on from a guy who potentially could be, because
they got cap space
fixture
too,
in the top four? for them.
They got some cap. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really heard too many rumors about Calgary or what their game plan is or what they want to do this offseason. But like you said, for giggles.
For science, to me personally, for a team that is a little unsure of what Rasmus Andersson is or what could be, I mean, maybe they're just underutilizing him, because ever since that 50-point season, I mean, following up in 22-23, he put up 49 points then. Then it drops down by another 10 points in 23-24 to 39 points. And this season, it continues just falling and falling. The goals actually are still there, but the total points is not, right? And then you talk about that plus minus, right? And so looking at the Calgary Flames team in general, I mean, they're paying over $10 million for someone like Jonathan Huberdeau, right? And so they have the cap. That's not the issue with them. But do they want to try and be a good team? But what direction do they want to go in? Do they want to rebuild, or do they want to be a good team? And so I look at their just looking at them, I mean, the draft pick wise, they have 2 first rounds this year. They have 2 first rounds next year. I could see a world where maybe they don't want to trade a Rasmus Andersson and they want to go out and get players that can make them better now, because they have the cap and they have the draft prospects.
Yep. I'm with you.
To go ahead and service that. So to me, I'm not sure if he's even on the table, but for science, if I were to make a trade offer, I would trade them this year's second and probably William Wallander. It probably would take a little bit more. So even for more giggles.
Hang on. Before you put another pick in there, what if you did Wallander, a second round pick, and Ben Sherratt?
It depends. Jake Bean is their only left-handed defenseman that is signed. They have more right-handed shooters than they do left-handed shooters. So, but how much does a Ben Sherratt offer to a Calgary Flames team?
He offers them a second round pick. I don't know.
I mean, we've seen Ben Sherratt get traded at the trade deadline, and he garnered a first. So anything is possible here. But would this get it done? I'm not exactly sure. A lot of people in the comments will probably say no, Carlo. That
I don't think it will either.
Negative value.
Dude, I don't think he's even on the block. I don't think you nailed it in terms of their draft capital, their cap space. They have no reason to trade Andersson. I think, in fact, if they do trade Andersson for a deal like that, they're not making their team better.
I would agree. So in terms of that, who are you thinking outside of a Rasmus Andersson? There's always a Bowen Byram, but we always keep on going back to, I personally believe it would have to be a right-handed defenseman, not a left-shooting defenseman, even if you went in the free agency. I believe that, I mean, you already have Ben Sherratt, Simon Edvinsson, Albert Johansson, Gustafsson. That's 4 left-handed shooting defensemen. Adding a 5th one is not going to help us out whatsoever, even if you move to one.
We haven't bought anybody out yet, so hear me out. If we were to go after Gavrikov, so when you say right-handed defenseman, I think we have that guy. It's Axel Sandin-Pellikka. That's our next right-handed defenseman that's going to be coming into this lineup. So you got to have a little bit of forward thinking with me here. If, let's say that RHD is Axel Sandin-Pellikka, and we go and sign Gavrikov for the sake of giggles, a left-handed shot, I would be putting Gavrikov on the top line with Mo right away.
But that would mean then that you're putting ASP in a situation where personally, to me, I believe he would be over-indexed being in that top 4 spot. And
not this season, though. I'm not saying for this season.
Sure. Whatever season it is, it could be 2 or 3 years from now. I don't think he makes top 4 at that point. I do believe that would be over-indexing him, and that he would be more prime for that 3rd spot. And so whatever right-handed defenseman you get, you're not signing him to a 6-year deal or a 5 to 6-year deal. You're going out and trading for someone who has 3 to 4 years left on their deal. Personally, to me, if you could. Or in the Rasmus Andersson case, since he has 1 year, you extend him for the 3 to 4 years, right? And then, as you mentioned, with a Gavrikov, as the years continue on, let's say you did have to extend Rasmus Andersson to 6 years, then yeah, put him down on the 3rd pair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Same thing for anybody.
Primarily, I would not go after a Gavrikov type. And then I think, too, that takes away from Simon Edvinsson, and that takes away from also someone like Gavrikov.
Well, the idea I had a couple weeks back was with Gavrikov is he's coming up and playing on the top line with Mo until ASP makes the jump into the NHL. He's that stopgap, right? So for me, it's like, okay, you got Gavrikov and Mo on the top line for a year. Maybe it's a year and a half. And then ASP jumps up into the lineup. Now you have Gavrikov, a defensive defenseman, covering for ASP, showing ASP he's going to be that veteran guide. He's going to be that defensive guide. Shoot, I'm sure ASP is going to learn how to play really good and sound defense playing with a guy like Gavrikov. And when ASP comes up into the lineup, that's when Gavrikov jumps down into the lineup and he goes on the second pair. And that's when Simon finally goes into the top pair. Dude, it could be in a year. That's just my idea there with bringing in Gavrikov and how he would slot into the lineup now, but also later on as the years roll by.
Realistically, what do you think Gavrikov gets? Being realistic.
7.75
by 7.
probably.
For science,
Yeah, we can undo it. I'm just curious to see what that looks like.
Now, what are you doing from here? Also, this player right here, you have to extend him. What do you extend him to the following season? An 8x8? It has to be more than Vladislav Gavrikov.
Oh yeah, and it will be. He'll be in the 8s, I think, for sure. I don't think he'll cross Mo. But I think he'll be in the 8s if he's not taking a bridge deal.
Now, the only issue that I have with this is Simon Edvinsson really going to be okay with him not being that guy? If I'm going to pay him $8 million, I don't want to pay him $8 million to be our second. Yeah, I really don't.
Zach, it could be a bridge. We're talking about Steve Yzerman here. He is Mr. Bridge Deal. It could very well be a bridge. Listen, I know he locked up Mo, but Mo's a number one D-man lock. I know he locked up Raymond. Raymond's a top-line winger. Lock. But Simon Edvinsson, I could absolutely see a bridge deal happen. I can see it going either way.
I personally... Let me ask you this then. What is the certainty that you have more on a Gavrikov than you do a Simon Edvinsson and an Albert Johansson?
What do you mean?
Why do you believe that Gavrikov is more earning of the top spots more so than a Simon Edvinsson? And how come we haven't even mentioned that Albert Johansson could very well be a good, serviceable second pair defenseman for us moving forward?
Yeah, Eljo for sure could be. I don't think it's this coming season, though. I think this coming season, I don't think Simon's going to be ready for a top spot. I think he could steal it maybe during the season, December, January. Maybe he gets back up there. I know he finished last season on the top line. I just don't think Ben Sherratt is a top line defenseman. You know, I think Gavrikov and Mo will probably be a top 5 defensive unit in the league playing next to each other. Like Gavrikov's unreal, dude. Like on a top line when you're playing out there and you have whoever they're going out there with on the forward group. Like Gavrikov is he's just the passing, the plays, and then of course the shutdown D that he plays, I think complements not only his D partner, but it also complements the forward group well too.
Just to kind of try and paint the picture for you.
This isn't next season. This is a picture of what this team could potentially look like, or at least what the top 4 could look like in like a year and a half from now.
So adding an ASP in here, in 2 years, you will have to extend him. Simon Edvinsson, after this upcoming season, you will have to extend him as well. So
cap's going up where we got money.
That's completely fine and everything. But then, okay, so you're saying I don't know if I want to. So, and it's also the same case for Albert Johansson. So then let's say like he wants more of a role, right? So then you eventually would have to move on from him. Okay. So
depends though, dude. He's got to earn it. Like you want a role, sure, but did you earn it? And by the way, when ASP's in this lineup, Gavrikov is down and Edvinsson's up.
Also, this kind of goes hand in hand with what people were saying in the comments. Paying middle-aged guys high cap for long-term that will end up like players like Justin Hall, Andrew Kopp, JT Compher. Personally, to me, I think that this kind of sets us up for failure adding a Vladislav Gavrikov, because now you're in a situation where, okay, so is Ben Sherratt the extra? Justin Hall obviously is the extra. Who's the extra here?
Well, I just want to do something real quick. Like, I understand the whole overpaying, but you guys need to remember the cap Like by the time Gavrikov's in his 6th year, the cap is probably going to be $120 million. So if you were to take Gavrikov's cap at 7.75 and you were to figure out what percentage of the cap is at, that's like, dude, I mean, if you're at $120 million, that's 7.75 is nothing. So I'm not too concerned about overpaying a guy like Gavrikov, because by the time he gets into the later or the back half of his deal, the cap is going to be nuts in terms of what it is. So I just wanted to fire that in there. Sorry, go ahead, dude.
No, you're good. And this is a really great discussion trying to go in depth about it. But
doesn't Ben Sherratt play both? Doesn't he play both wings?
Yeah, but it keeps on going back to that. That's kind of my point, is that you have one player that shoots right now. One on that whole entire back end. Just one.
Yeah.
That's why I wouldn't do something like this. And I would prefer that I personally would rather it be like this. Just imagine he's not there.
Okay.
Right? And then you get a right-handed defenseman right there.
Yep. And
that's your
pairing
third
him
pair.
with Aljo?
If you can get someone who's big, if you can get someone who's a little bit more on the veteran side, if you can get them via trade or via UFA, however it's got to be done, it's primarily going to have to be via trade. I firmly believe that if you wanted to get someone for right here, or that's it. And then you re-sign Jeff Petrie. This is why I keep going.
What I would do here, bro, is I would probably buy out Gustafsson and slot Aljo down back to the third and put Gavrikov back up there, because I think Aljo on the second pairing is a little bit of an over-index and a little bit of high hopes. I think he's a third pair guy.
That's the guy who can defend against Connor McDavid, buddy. Not even Alexander Barkov and Aaron Ekblad can defend against Connor McDavid. Do you know who can? Aljo. He
was out there for the wrong. He was not supposed to be out there though. I'm pretty sure Moritz Seider is the shutdown guy for when Connor's coming at you.
And it kind of goes back to this. I know that a lot of people are skeptical to see how much of a jump that some of these younger guys can improve going into next season. I'm not sitting here and saying I have this crystal ball saying Albert Johansson's going to be a top 2 defenseman next year. By no means do I think that, but I think his defensive game can definitely improve more than what it was. And we saw him kind of get a little bit more offensive output out of him once we started moving towards the end of the season, right? And so to me, I personally would rather save the 7.75 and give that to Simon Edvinsson the next year and try to figure out how can I upgrade the right side. Because like I said, we only have one player that can shoot right, if you don't want to count Justin Hall. One, and that's Moritz Seider. So does that really help out this team? I personally don't think so. Now, if you told me, okay,
defensively it does. Like defensively, it helps out the team. But in terms of slotting with shooting, yeah, I get it. I mean, it's not the. But
ideal. For science, I will just ride with you, and I will go. You know what? Albert Johansson has played on the right side multiple times. What if it's Simon Edvinsson and Albert Johansson as your top 4? So that's your top 4 right there.
You could get
Vladislav Gavrikov, Moritz Seider, Simon Edvinsson, Albert Johansson.
I think it's better than last year's defense.
I mean, all you did was add one player in UFA.
Yeah, but you slotted,
I would agree, it's better.
Guys down, right? Like you started indexing people properly. Like
the only issue with me still is the fact that you only have one player that can shoot right.
That's a fair problem. That's a big problem, and that's a problem that might happen very well if Detroit goes out and gets Gavrikov. That's something that we would have to live with because it's for 7 years, and I know that's your hesitation there, and I respect it 100%. Now, keep in mind, I know we only have one right-hand shooting D right now, but ASP's he's in the wings, so he's coming. We will eventually have 2, but that's not going to be next season if we go this route. Which I respect that point.
Now, after signing Gavrikov, we have no cap.
So that's what I'm saying. Buyouts would have to happen now. You have to get interesting here.
Well, some of the players that we can buy out would be the 2 defensemen. And that saves us maybe for science. Let's just buy him out now.
I think I'd buy out Hall over Gus. So you're buying out both.
You have $4 million and you have to fill 4 more roster spots. And so that's even with Carter Mazur and Austin Watson in there. So you moved on from Nate Danielson, MBN.
Ooh, what if? Hear me out. Hear me out. Go back to that slotting for a second. I know it doesn't matter too much, but what if you put MBN on that third line and Rasmussen down on the fourth?
Still big line. I
I'd
mean,
keep
MBN's
I
not
would I
exactly
would
the
keep
tallest guy,
Elmer.
but 6'1".
I would keep Elmer on the third line and put Rasmussen down on the fourth line with Kopp and Mazer. Not that it matters. I'm just throwing it out there.
For the shoots and giggles of it,
What does that look like?
$3 million left, and we still need 3 more players to add. So you would have to venture via trade.
Yeah,
You would
probably
have
do
to
another
venture
trade.
via UFA, and so that it keeps on going back to this.
Well,
to me personally,
even if that's Byram in that spot. So let's say it's not Gavrikov and it's a right-handed D-man, which I think right-handed D-mans are far more valuable. They definitely don't grow on trees, and if you're going to make a trade for one, you're giving up a lot because teams know that if you want my RH, my right-handed defenseman, yeah, we have the leverage in this conversation because they're just not out there. So going after a trade, we might have already given up what we were willing to give up via trade for Robertson and Marchment. So maybe that's not a realistic route. Or you get lucky with Byram. I don't know how in terms of getting him over. But either way, you're going to be in a similar position cap wise, right? What's Byram at?
well, and then Byram also shoots left. It's
Oh,
this
yeah, that's
whole
right.
entire same thing, right? So
That's what I mean,
it's
dude.
one of
Our
those things
right-handed
as
defenseman, tough to find.
now a lot of people are going to hate me for this. I'm going to revert back to the Eric Carlson deal.
Oh my, I can already
Now,
see the
hear me out on
comments.
this one. Hear me out on this one. Let's go ahead and do this. We're gonna do it a little differently than we did last time, right? So we're actually gonna have them retain some money on this, even though. And here's the part too: is that Pittsburgh technically wouldn't even have to do this. They really wouldn't, because they have $24 million, $24.5 million in cap space. But for the giggles of it, let's say they wanted to retain
Just
5, maybe even 3. I'll change it to 3.
yeah, I was going to say don't go more than 3.5.
They'll retain $3 million. We give them their boy, Justin Hall. You can give them Wallander. Honestly, I think that's it.
Okay, fire it. Let's see what happens.
I mean, let's discuss it, right? You get $7 million for 2 years of Eric Carlson, who plays little to no defense, who could probably bring in some scoring and maybe some leadership on your back end, more than what Ben Sherrod and Gavrikov could probably do. For Justin Hall, who literally was on waivers last year to start the season, and a prospect in William Wallander. Does that equal enough for the Pittsburgh Penguins to move on from $7 million and for us to take on that, and they get a prospect and a player who could play for them now?
Well, Justin Hall's definitely not going to be on their second line. I think Carlson's on their second pairing, right?
Well, we're talking about a Pittsburgh Penguins team who hasn't made the playoffs in back-to-back years, and they continue the decline because their players continue to get older. So are they in a rebuild now, or are they in the teardown phase, kind of like how we were when Steve Yzerman came in?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I believe they're in the teardown point.
Yeah, they could be in that position in which they need to shed some cap. So this, I think, would, oh my God, this would be a crazy deal. I really don't love the idea of giving up more
give
draft.
them a third.
I don't love the idea of giving up more draft capital, dude. I really hate that personally, but if that's what it takes to get it done so we can see what you're... Oh, I see what you're doing here. You give us a pick, we'll retain more money. All right, let's see what happens. Oh my God. We're
now you're over $3 million in cap.
And you still have Gavrikov? Dude.
This is so tough.
Dude.
Steve Yzerman's got a lot of work for him. This is why it's no fun to be Steve Yzerman.
We're over the cap by 3, right?
Or over cap.
So that's what this team could look like when it's over the cap. Damn you, Cap. Yeah, dude, I really don't know. I really love the first half of this episode where we were going over that crazy deal with Dallas that I think works well for both teams. But then the defense gets very, very interesting. I think we would rather have Gavrikov over Carlson just for the sake of playing defense and letting in less goals. I think most people would probably want him over Carlson. But then it comes down to your point, which is a great point again. Well, now we only have one defenseman who shoots right. And is that something we live with for a season? I don't know.
And even with these 22 players, we're still over the cap.
Yeah, we'd
at
have to. I
500K.
mean, we'd have to go back to if we had Gavrikov on the team, we'd have to buy out one of those defensemen, whether it's Gustafson or Hall. Probably Hall.
It's probably Hall, but at that point, as our friends at a different podcast always like to tell us, just waive them, right?
Okay.
Now you're back over.
I think if you
But now
buy him
you
out,
still,
you'll have more money, but sure, you can waive him.
and at that point, I agree with you that you should just buy him out instead of, in this scenario, you would have to because you need the cap.
Exactly. Yeah, like
But now it's only 1.7 that we have left, and we still need to fill 2 more spots. So does that come from within at this point?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think yeah, dude, I mean, we shedded a lot of cap in getting rid of Tarasenko and Comfer, but you brought on a lot as well in getting Robertson and Marchment. And then you go out and get Gavrikov. Like, dude, maybe they don't get Gavrikov. You know, maybe they do put Simon up there, and they. But the thing is like you're still spending money if you're going to get a defenseman. So I feel like there's another move that has to be made somehow to make this type of stuff work. Otherwise, you're going to see a Stevie one and done Yzerman, one move and done, which is probably going to be a little lackluster. And I can already hear people flipping out on Stevie Y.
I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world if Ben Sherratt is your second pair left-handed defenseman. I don't think, is it over-indexing? Maybe a little bit, but I think that you can counter that with, look, no matter what, whoever you add in that RD2 spot, they're going to be better than Gustafson, they're going to be better than Hall, and they're going to be better than whoever else that we had in that position last year, right? And so I don't think it can really get any worse. Even if you were to say, Albert Johansson, we have to put you there. Ben Sherratt, we have to put you at the LD3 spot, right? And now at this point, we have to get an LD2, and we're going to, I wouldn't call it over-indexing Simon Edvinsson either because he's still so young. I mean, we started putting Moritz Seider at that RD1 spot at the age of, 20 years old, and he did very fine in that spot with Ben Sherratt as his LD1 that year. So I don't think that it's out of the world if Simon Edvinsson is in that LD1 spot, to be honest with you. And so I don't, at this point, then yeah, you would have to go into free agency because making that trade for Jason Robertson, we really don't have too much left. Now, I kind of want to go back to, there's someone like Cody Ceci there, Carlo. Cody Ceci would not be bad option at the RD2 spots. Ryan Lindgren as well. You can get Ryan Lindgren. There's Nate Schmidt. Now, I'm looking for the players that are, it's to the part where you have to get the players that are going to be on the short-term contracts, especially to your point, if you want ASP to be in that top 4, then you're going to have to add these players that are going to come in on the 2 to 3 to 4 year contracts, not the 5+. Personally, to me, that's how I look at it.
Dante Fabro.
I would not be okay, or I wouldn't mind getting a Dante Fabro. The only thing that I have against that is Columbus Blue Jackets going to let a guy like that go? Maybe, but
they haven't signed him yet. Why haven't they signed him yet?
Good point. To me, this is a guy that I would give a 4-year deal, and then he's going to be interchangeable with ASP once ASP makes that roster, right? And so from here, what do you give someone like a Dante Fabro?
I would give him, I would probably go 6
mil.
I would go 6, straight up 6 to get him at 4 years.
I kind of think that's a lot.
I think it's free. It's free agency.
See why?
It's just because it's free agency, and if he's tabling offers, you got to play the game. I think he's gonna get. I think some money, and it's not 7.75 like Gavrikov. So I mean, this is a little bit less.
And then you have, with that being said, you have just under $3.5 million left to spend, and with 2 roster players still needed to sign. And for this, I'm just going to. Part of me still thinks that Jonathan Taves could make an impact on this team, and I want to put him there so badly. But I feel like that we're going to get to a point where we're going to ask the people to fill in that number 4 season for us once again. I kind of believe that. Also, too, Carlo, I just think that there's a reality where Steve Yzerman just goes, All right, yeah, we're going to run it back. Let's go ahead and get Tyler Mile. Let's go ahead and get Jeff Petrie. Let's go get Craig Smith again and add them onto this team because we know we can get them for cheap. We know what they can bring for us. We know what they can do for us.
I hope he doesn't do that. Jeff Petrie's 37 years old. He has no business playing anymore. I
You
mean,
would pay him $800K.
Yeah, I don't
to be
think,
that eighth defenseman.
I wouldn't. I can tell you I wouldn't. Craig Smith, I might bring back. Might. I did not mind Craig Smith.
I would give him like, it's no more than $900K. For a 35-year-old that put up, 18 points actually isn't that bad. So maybe you re-sign him for $1 million.
Let's just say that's the case.
At most, that's what I would give a Craig Smith. But at that point, are you paying him as your 4C or you go this way? That's not bad.
It's not. It's not at all. It's really not.
Or even that.
No. Marchman's staying up there.
And then you need one more player for
go back to that lineup.
$2.4 million.
I'm just curious here because I think we have to kind of stick it with something like that. It's not bad luck. And then you need one more player. Probably
we need one more player. More than likely a defenseman.
So I was going to say a 7th D. So you need a 7th defenseman.
And that's why I kind of go back to a Jeff Petrie, because we know that he comes in super cheap and the likelihood of him playing would be very minimal. And worst case, if Erik Gustafsson has a really, really bad season, right, then you would swap him. And then if Jeff Petrie goes down and Erik Gustafsson isn't going to do well, then that's when you would call up a player like an Anton Johansson or an Axel Sandin Palika for the shoots and giggles of it, like you have been saying. So, but just to venture out and look, right-handed defenseman on the cheap that would come in under $2 million.
I don't think it's happening.
I really know, but one player that I would try and get, Henri Jokiharju. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but 6 foot, right-handed shooting. Boston likes getting those physical players, right? And so he probably fits that bill. But this is a guy who also put up 20 points at one point with the Buffalo Sabres.
He's a UFA?
He will be a UFA.
And you don't think Boston's going to take him, sign him?
Why didn't they do it already?
I know. That's a fair point.
I think it just comes down to a lot of these players are waiting to see what the market's going to be, what teams are willing to pay for some of these players. But it's really interesting. So instead of Dante Fabro, I would be interested in getting someone like that on the defensive side if they don't come in that high, right? And we know Steve Yzerman, he's all about taking the risk and the reward. That's why he went out and got like a Vladimir Tarasenko. What kind of risk came with him, right? And so
Patrick Kane, obviously there were some risks that came with him too.
Yep, he's taking risks. And so with a Jokiharju, if he comes in less than $6 million, let's say like that's an upgrade for him, right? Let's see, he's going from a 3.1 to a 4.425. And let's say you're giving him a little bit of, 4.75, 4 years. You went like that. He's not exactly the biggest guy, granted.
I don't know if he's taking that deal though. Like I feel like there's going to be a team.
Well, won't know. We won't know about any of these guys.
Until
that's
the market.
The whole point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Until it happens. So for us, we're just kind of, this is for the fans to decide. If we're right and we're wrong, we're just doing this for fun, for you guys, for the entertainment purposes.
Facts.
But I personally do believe that this would be a really great contract for him, because then that takes him to 29, and then he can get the 5 to 7 year deal if he proves within the Detroit team that he is a regular NHLer that can provide really good defensive skills and some points moving forward, right? And so to me personally, this isn't too bad. And because of that, now you still have $3.7 million in cap with only one more contract needed to be added. And so from there, you could absolutely upgrade this to where Erik Gustafsson is an extra. You could do it to where you wouldn't even need to get a Craig Smith or have an MBN up, and you can go out and fill that R3 spot, right? But for now and for here, Carlo,
there's one more spot available, and there's $3 million to do it. Do you address it on D? Do you address it in the forward group? Zach, I think this is the part of the show where we leave it up to the people.
Once again, leaving it up to the people. Yes, I would agree with you, because we have been going for quite some time. I think we had really great dialogue here.
This
we came pretty quickly on the Jason Robertson discussion, but outside of Jason Robertson, Carlo, what other forward would you target? We talked about Marco Rossi. We talked about some other names too, but who else would you target? I personally believe that Dallas is the best team for us to trade with because we have what they use to move on Mikko Rantanen. We can replenish that, and they have what we want, which is a young forward that is a 100-point player that can put up 40 goals in a season, and that helps us now. So both teams are a fit when it comes to a trade, but who else would you have in mind outside of Jason Robertson and Dallas if you had to pick one?
Right now, I want to be honest with you, Zach, I don't have anybody else in mind, and I'm going to tell you why. This team is a lot tougher to play against. We didn't lose skill. We didn't lose speed, and we got bigger. Robertson's 6'3".
100%. Yeah.
This is a move that, this would be in my opinion, for me, this is the most ideal outcome that can happen this offseason for the Detroit Red Wings. Marco Rossi, pass, too small.
And fits the bill just like Marco Kasper and Nate Danielson. To me personally, I think he's a very great player, but very similar to that mold, right? And not a Jason Robertson, who is a pure left-handed shooting winger, right? And we don't know what Marco Rossi can be. With a Jason Robertson and Mason Marchment, you know what you're getting out of those players right now.
Yeah, this is the most ideal situation for us to be in, I think. If we could find a right-handed defenseman for the second line at that 4.75, I'll even say up to 5.5 to leave us.
I would go up higher than Ben Sherratt. I think if you go RD2, you have to match Ben Sherratt or go up from that.
Yeah, I would say the range would be, I think you're there in the range. Let's say the range is 5 to 5.5. Either way, it leaves you with some wiggle room to go and get one more player. The question now to you guys is, who is that last player to round out your roster with 23 people? Is it going to be someone in the forward group so you can start slotting people up or down? Is it going to be someone on the defensive side so you could be going up or down? Are you bringing back Alex Lyon? What are we doing? What are you doing? We're curious. I'm curious. Zach's curious. We're curious. We're all curious. What are we doing with that last spot? What are we doing with the remaining cap? If you're not bringing in Yoki Haru, if you're not bringing in Fabro, if you're not bringing in Gavrikov, which are the scenarios we've just played through, who are you bringing in, and how does it work within the roster construct? Does it keep us, above water when it comes to cap space? And do you have a 23-man roster? This is the point where we want to hear from you guys. Let's get the banter rolling. Let's get the grill fired up. And if you guys want to grill this roster, as always, you're more than welcome to do so, but provide that context. Zach, back to you, brother.
Final recap. What if Yzerman splashes for the 25-26 season, the off season, right? So with this, like Carlo mentioned, roster count, we went 22 out of 23. We'll let you guys finalize this roster with $3.7 million left to utilize for one more player. It could be anywhere. It could be an extra player. It could be a goalie, like Carlo mentioned, Alex Lyon, if you want to bring him back, which I actually would not mind doing that because of the depth, right? You got an aging Cam Talbot and you have a Peter Mrazek who obviously continues to get injured each season as he continues moving on in his career as well. And so it could be even it could be a third liner too. If you can find a third liner somehow for $3 million, go ahead and submit that. Let us know down in the comments below. But with this, Carlo, I mean, you didn't even move on from any of your 2025 picks at all just by getting a Jason Robertson and a Mason Marchment. Maybe we're way off with that type of trade, but I think that was more than fine. But you did have to give up. You gave up a lot. You gave up Vladimir Tarasenko at half retention, right? Then you got JT Comfort. You have to retain his contract for 3 more years, right? But you moved on from Nate Danielson, Jonathan Berggren, 2 very young players and 2 very young potential players that you could have had from your 26 first round pick and your 2028 first round pick. But like I mentioned, with that all being done, I don't think that they would insert Nate Danielson onto the Dallas Stars team right away, but let's say they did. That's 4 players you just gave them versus the 2 that you took on. And it's for very minimal cap for the Dallas Stars, and you gave them 2 first-round picks. To me, I think that this is an okay trade. I don't think that this is, I think you would have to do a little tinkering, right? But I think that this is very close. It's very uncomfortable for us. That's 2 first-round picks. A very good player in Nate Danielson, You give them a center in JT Compher, you give them a winger in Tarasenko, and then you give them Jonathan Berggren, who could be a winger in their bottom six or maybe in their top six. They have good players on their team that we mentioned that we haven't been able to give a Jonathan Berggren the opportunity to, because we keep on putting him in the bottom six, right, Carlos? So
Yep.
we could see a Jonathan Berggren thrive over there. And Jim Nill, very, very familiar with the Detroit Red Wings. Steve Yzerman knows a lot about us, and the same thing with us. We know a lot about the Dallas Stars, and so I think that this is a very fair trade. But going back even to the Woodward Sports one, I think that one was more than fine as well. I think you probably would have added a little bit more to it, and that's why we went with this one, I believe. But this is also for science. We want to hear from you guys, the viewers, watchers, and listeners, fans alike, what you guys think about this trade and also even the signings as well. But going back down to the full roster breakdown, Jason Robertson, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, top line. Second line, Alex DeBrincat, Marco Casper, Patrick Kane. Third line, Elmer Soderblom, Mason Marchment, Michael Branzig Nygaard. Fourth line, Michael Rasmussen, Andrew Kopp, Craig Smith. The only lock here is that top line. Everything else, I personally believe, can be interchangeable. I think Carlo does as well.
Yep.
But I would agree that second line probably is a lock as well. Going over to the defense, Simon Evanson, Moritz Seider, Albert Johansson, Henry Yokiharu, Ben Sherratt, Eric Gustafsson. I think that's more than a fine. It's not the greatest third pair, obviously, but you're not over-indexing either of those two guys by putting them on the third pair. And then for here, your extras are Austin Watson and Carter Mazur. Let us know down in the comments. Flip them around. Tell us what you guys would do in this scenario. Please add some context behind it. We love it when you guys do that. It helps make the engagement a little bit easier for us and go more in depth about what potentially Steve Yzerman can do, what we want to do. Tell us what you would want to do as fans. We definitely appreciate the feedback. And yeah, Carlo, I think sounds like we pretty much did our final thoughts already.
That's it, man. The only thing I would say is publish this roster. We'll drop the link in the bio of the video. And if it's easier for you guys to go in there so you can see everything on your screen, full screen, we'll drop the link there and you can leave some comments. And we'll check in on it. And hey, man, there might be a part 3 to this. We never know. I mean, it's June. We're having fun and we're just boiling things up here. But yeah, let's definitely publish that. Let's enable the comments. Fire up the grill, folks. We're ready for it. And yeah, let's see what the comments look like. And let's go Red Wings. That's my final thought.
Those are my final thoughts as well. And until next time, we'll see y'all on the next one. See ya
later.
Love you. Bye.